They said I'd be the first keeper in over 40 years. When the county offered the assignment, I thought it'd be quiet. Just me, the ocean, and a job nobody else wanted. The road to Blackridge Cove ended miles before I reached the lighthouse. After that, it was just a gravel path and the sound of the sea slamming into rock. The cliffs looked like they'd been chewed apart by storms, half of them crumbling, the rest slick with moss and salt. By the time I saw the lighthouse, dusk had already swallowed the coast. Its tower rose from the edge like a broken tooth, all rusted metal and weathered stone. But what caught me off guard was the faint beam cutting across the clouds. The light was on. That shouldn't have been possible. The county record said the wiring was stripped decades ago, after the last keeper disappeared. The door was heavy, but unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of brine and machine oil. Dust floated through the beam of my flashlight like it had been waiting for years to move again. Everything was still, except for a faint ticking sound echoing from above. I climbed the narrow staircase that spiraled up the tower, each step creaking under my boots. At the top, the lantern room glowed with a soft, rhythmic pulse, the old Fresnel lens turning on its own. The generator below was dead, but the light kept spinning, each rotation brushing across the stormy sea. And just for a second, as the beam crossed the water, I thought I saw a figure standing on the shore, motionless, facing the tower. But when the light came back around, there was nothing there. The storm hit that night. It came in fast. No warning, no forecast. Just a sudden wall of rain hammering the glass and wind howling through the cracks in the tower. I should have been asleep, but the light wouldn't stop turning. Every 5 seconds, the beam swept across the sea, cutting through the darkness like it was searching for something. Around midnight, the radio came to life, not with a call sign or static, but with a voice. Keep it burning. Don't let it stop. The transmission was faint, warped, like it was crawling through water. I tried answering back, but all I got was feedback. A deep, pulsing hum that made the floorboards tremble. I went downstairs to check the backup generator, but before I reached the bottom, I noticed a door I hadn't seen earlier. It was half hidden behind a row of shelves, a narrow steel hatch marked log storage. The latch was rusted shut. I had to pry it open with a crowbar. Inside, the air was colder, and it smelled faintly like seawater. There were boxes stacked against the wall, old magnetic tapes, journals wrapped in wax paper, and a reel-to-reel recorder sitting on a desk, still plugged into a socket that shouldn't have been working. One of the tapes was labeled Keeper 4 Final Week. Curiosity got the better of me. I powered the recorder, pressed play, and a low hiss filled the room, followed by a man's voice. Tired, shaking. The light's been on 3 nights now. Power's cut, but it doesn't matter. It turns itself. It calls when it's dark. They said the sea remembers, but no one ever asked what it remembers. There was a sound behind him, something metallic dragging across the floor, slow and deliberate. Then the voice whispered, almost in a plea. If you see them on the shore, don't answer. They're not lost. They're waiting. The tape stopped there, and the radio upstairs, the one that had gone quiet, started again. Keeper. Same voice, same tone. Except this time, it said my name. By the second night, I stopped trying to sleep. The storm hadn't eased. The radio wouldn't stay quiet. Every few hours, the same voice would come through the static, calm, measured, sometimes humming what sounded like a sailor's tune. Other times it just whispered, low and broken. Keep it burning. They'll find their way. Don't look down. I told myself it was interference from a trawler off the coast, but deep down, I knew no one was out there. No ship had passed this stretch of sea in years. Around 3 in the morning, I went up to the lantern room again. The light was spinning slowly, the beam cutting through walls of rain. Each time it turned, I caught glimpses of the waves crashing below, and then something else. Figures, 3 of them, standing ankle-deep in the surf, directly beneath the tower. At first, I thought they were survivors from a wreck, but they didn't move. Not even when lightning split the sky above them. Their heads tilted upward, faces turned toward the light, like they were waiting for it to find them. When the beam crossed over, they vanished. When it came back around, they were closer. I stumbled back down the stairs, heart pounding, and shut every door I could find. But that didn't stop the sound. Slow, dragging footsteps circling the tower, scraping on stone and sand. The radio crackled again. "Don't shut them out. They belong to the light." Then, under the static, a faint knocking, 3 taps in rhythm from just outside the door. It was subtle at first, like wind against the wood. But then it came again, harder, closer, deliberate. I froze, hand hovering over the latch. The knocking stopped. For a moment there was silence, until a whisper came from the keyhole. "Keeper, open up." It was my own voice. I didn't open the door. Not that night. Not ever again after that sound. When the storm finally broke, the world outside was unrecognizable. The cliffs were half collapsed, and the shoreline below looked freshly torn apart. But what unsettled me most was that there were footprints in the sand. Bare. Dozens of them. They started at the water's edge and led straight up to the base of the tower, then stopped. No return path. I spent the day trying to make sense of it. I turned off the radio, shut the breaker, even covered the lens of the light with a tarp. But that night, at exactly midnight, the tarp blew off on its own. The light flared, bright enough to blind me, and the gears began turning again, smooth and deliberate. That's when I found the second set of tapes. They were sealed inside a watertight case behind the fuel drums, older than the rest. No labels, just deep grooves where something had been carved and worn away by salt. I played the first one, static, then a voice. Not the last keeper, but someone older. We built it to guide them in, not keep them out. Every life taken by this coast has to go somewhere. The sea doesn't bury, and it remembers. The light feeds the current, keeps them close. There was a pause, a trembling breath. But they've learned. They want warmth, a body, a voice. The tape ended abruptly, and in that same instant, I heard the generator start by itself. The light above began to turn faster, the beam now sweeping across the sea in violent, frantic circles. I climbed the stairs, yelling into the wind, trying to shut it off. But the higher I went, the louder something else became. Voices, hundreds of them, echoing in unison. "Keeper, keep it burning." The glass of the lantern room was fogged from the inside. When I wiped it clear, my reflection stared back. Only there was water dripping from its face. Then lightning struck the ocean, and I saw them. The figures from before weren't 3 anymore. They were countless. Men, women, even children, all standing in the surf, all staring up at the light. And when the thunder rolled, they screamed, not in pain, but like they were calling back. That's when I finally understood what the old recording meant. The light wasn't just guiding the dead, it was keeping them from leaving. I decided I wouldn't be part of it. If the light wanted to burn, I'd snuff it out for good. The dead could have their darkness. I wanted my life back. I tore through the lower levels, following the old wiring down into the generator pit. The air was heavy, damp, filled with the sound of water dripping through cracks in the stone. And underneath it, something else, a low humming, like a song being sung beneath the floor. I found the main power conduit behind a panel, corroded and ancient, the metal warm under my hand. I yanked it free. Sparks flew. The tower shuddered. For the first time in days, the light went out. And then came the silence. No wind, no sea. Just stillness so deep it pressed against my ears like pressure. I exhaled, shaky, and started back up the stairs. But before I reached the top, the radio clicked on again. No static this time, just breathing. "You did this before." The voice was mine, older, broken. Every keeper says they'll end it. Every one of us. You think it's a job. It's a replacement. I froze. When the light dies, something has to take its place. Then the walls began to breathe, timbers expanding and contracting like lungs. Salt water began seeping up through the floorboards, pooling around my boots. I ran. The stairs twisted under me, the tower moaning as the waves struck harder against the rock. At the top, the lantern room glowed again, but the light wasn't mechanical anymore. It was alive. Pale shapes circled the lens, pressing their hands against the glass from the inside, as if trapped within the light itself. Every time it turned, their faces blurred together, their mouths moving silently in rhythm. I tried to smash the controls, but when I struck the base, the light flared and threw me backward. My head hit the floor, and for a moment, everything went black. When I came to, I wasn't on the floor anymore. I was standing, inside the beam. It was warm, too warm. I could feel the light pulsing through me like a heartbeat. Outside, the storm had cleared, the ocean was calm, and down on the shore, the figures were gone. The radio crackled once more. Keep it burning. I reached for the switch, but my hand didn't move. It just hovered there, trembling in the light. And when I caught my reflection in the glass, I saw the truth. The lens wasn't reflecting me at all. It was showing another man, soaked, wide-eyed, climbing the steps below, flashlight in hand. Another keeper. They'll find their way, I whispered, my own voice echoing back through the radio. Don't let it stop. The beam turned, and the cycle began again.
2 months after the storm that struck Blackridge Cove, a Coast Guard inspection vessel located the remains of the old lighthouse. The tower was still standing, though barely. The lantern room had been shattered, and much of the foundation was cracked open from years of salt erosion. Inside, they found signs of recent habitation: a cot, a journal, an old transistor radio, but no sign of the keeper. The last recorded entry in the logbook was dated October 9th, 1987. The handwriting was frantic, letters overlapping and smeared with salt. The sea wants its light back. If I go, someone else will take my place. Investigators also recovered an audio tape, likely used for weather reporting. The recording contained only one phrase, repeated over and over: "Keep it burning. Keep it burning." The tower was finally decommissioned that same year. Yet, locals claim that when fog rolls in across Blackridge Bay, you can still see a faint light turning on the horizon, a pulse that cuts through the mist, steady and rhythmic. And though no one is assigned to the station anymore, mariners say they sometimes hear a voice break through the static. This is the Blackridge Light, guiding you home.